Hey everyone, thanks for joining us again at the Content Club podcast with myself, Tina Calder. This podcast is a little bit different from the others. This one is in relation to a training event that I attended and several sessions within that. So it was the BBC Digital Skills Academy, and it happened in Belfast just recently. For those who are tuning in at a much later date, the date today, let me just check this out, is the 15th of November. So it's the 15th of November 2018. For anyone who's joining us maybe later on at a later date, I would say that a lot, maybe, a great deal of this will still be relevant. So one of the greatest things about the Digital Skills Academy is the fact that there's just so much happening. Just absolutely loads going on, and what's really brilliant about it is that it gives you a real good insight into maybe parts of the industry that you maybe didn't think about entering, think about pitching into, you maybe didn't think about collaborating into. And also a lot of the skills, a lot of the learnings are all transferable. And very, very transferable for anyone in the storytelling world, content creation, journalism, TV production, social media strategy and planning and delivery. Anyone that kind of looks after corporates or who is looking to appeal to an audience. So it's really good that way, and particularly good for students as well. So the first session that I went to had Justin Binding, who was commissioning executive for the BBC Northern Ireland. We also had Emma Dunseith, who's executive editor in Arts, Music and Learning for BBC NI. Cordelia Hebblworth, who's commissioning editor at BBC Ideas, and I believe she's based in England, London. And Fiona Blair, who's an executive producer in-house at the BBC in Northern Ireland, but who sells internally into BBC Three. And she was nominated in the absence of anyone from BBC Three being able to be there. So the first up and first to chat was Justin, who said that, at the moment they are commissioning around 120 hours from the indies, and that is predominantly in TV for digital. So stuff that has TV values, it's structured and commissioned to expand the audience into that space, and it's aimed at bringing in younger audiences. And some of it is in line with working with linear TV. He says that the iPlayer plays a massive role in their commissioning, and it really is about applying the television values into the iPlayer. They're drawn to stories and storytelling, and he really emphasised the point of just how it's all about telling a really good story. And for him, he says this is the most compelling part of a pitch, regardless of whether it's long form or short form. He said it has to be a great story. Then next up was Emma. Emma talked a lot about bite size, which is open at the moment, I think, for hospitality. Just to get, did I give you the date? It's 15th November 2018, just in case anyone's tuning in at a much later date. Anyway, so she said that they're looking to commission emerging talent. They're interested in one-off commissions in smaller companies. They said bite size is where they have the most opportunities, and animation is what they love, and the best place to find out what they're commissioning or how to get involved with commissioning is bbc.co.uk/commissioning. She's very interested in curriculum resources and being able to assist young people through exam time in the content. And she says if she had to give any tips, that read the brief. I thought that was quite funny, because it's always the case, when you get stuff in. I mean, anytime I have maybe put something out looking for a specific skill, I always think to myself, did you even read that? So yeah, I get what Emma's saying, read the brief. So Cordelia then was chatting about bbc.com/ideas. Ideas was launched in January 18 of this year, and it's short films for curious minds. So it's short form video projects, which is slightly different than what Justin and Emma are doing. Cordelia said that what they are looking for is, their audience are curious about the world, they're well educated, they're digitally savvy, they want to use their time wisely, so they want to, they're curious about the little things, but they're asking big questions. And she's saying that, it's about fresh perspectives about everything around. She was very clear, it is not news. It's while they want it to be topical, if possible, that it needs to be ideas in a big, broad sense. So they have lots of things like how to win at XYZ. They also have the series Edible Histories, things like that. And she says, yes, you do need high production values and solid research, that whilst the content is different than what is needed for TV, that the values behind it and, and the quality should be the same. So for her 3 takeaways were genuine take home for the audience, that they need to learn something, or they need to come away with a different perspective, or they, it needs to not feel like the BBC. So she is recommending that people let their creativity run loose when they're pitching, to from the sense that, so that you can come up with ideas that aren't BBC but will work on the BBC platform. So that, that bbc.co.uk/commissioning is probably the best place to go. There is a mini round that closes on 3rd December. I am not sure. I think that is with Cordelia's stuff. It is. And they take pitches on an ongoing basis as well. So then it was Fiona Blair. Fiona is, as I say, works for BBC Three. She said the commissioning editor is a woman called Nasfim Haque, I think. So I apologise if I have said that wrong. So the spelling of that is NASF for Freddie, IMHAQUE. And she is indie facing in the work that she does. So they are looking for short form that doesn't go on linear TV. And they're looking for fast, reactive and current. So they describe it like fast moving consumer goods. It goes out of date quite quickly. There's no quota for commissioning locally online. So it is important that you try to make sure that it will be interesting to the wider BBC Three network, that you're not just pitching, Northern Ireland ideas that are only of interest to Northern Ireland. Then some of the questions from the room were asking things about, the time frames for pitching and for turnaround. Justin said that his could be up to 3 months or more. Emma said sometimes it's as quick as 2 weeks. Cordelia said, because they're evergreen, they want topical, it needs to be a wider sense. It's quite quick, their turnaround, but sometimes they can take a few weeks to review pitches. And Fiona said topical stuff is quick, maybe a couple of weeks, but possibly more depending on the idea. Other points that they made, Emma said to keep an eye on the commissioning website or bbc.co.uk/commissioning, because there are more opportunities coming up shortly for quick fire stuff. She couldn't say anything more than that, other than that if you keep your eye out, there is stuff coming in. Always shoot with the Facebook square in mind, said Fiona at BBC Three. And Cordelia said that, it's very, very hard to find the skills required to, I suppose, go to this new audience but still retain the production values, etc., for TV. To me, and this is only my interpretation of that, I would see probably a need out there for a lot more collaborative working between agencies and organisations and creatives. And certainly for me, I sent a text during that that session to someone else and said, look, I'd really like to collaborate with you on a few ideas. So I think that is quite important. So that was the first session. The second session was Pitch Perfect, and that was with Steve Rawling. Steve's company, what is Steve's company called? I'll have to remember it. I'll remember it. He speaks again later. Actually, I'll probably have it in my book. Sorry, folks. Can't remember his company. Yeah, we'll find it. It'll be in the book somewhere. So anyway, Steve Rawling is he's a former BBC employee, and he is now, so he's an ex-news journalist. He's now a business consultant, and I've just remembered the name of his company. It's New Thinking. So it's New Thinking, and I think it's newthinking.tools is the website. Yeah, so he's based in Manchester. And so Steve talked about, the things that you need for a good pitch, and he said that those are theme, hook and story. And it's all about thinking about that moment of emotional release. He also pointed out something I thought was so interesting, and it wasn't that it was interesting because I didn't know it. It was something that was interesting because I did know it, but I didn't realise how important it was. And he said that you have to consider the difference of how active the audience is today, because they're absolutely hyperactive. So they're although audiences are very different today, they're going on their phone, they're watching TV, they're doing it all at once, they're looking to involve themselves in conversation. What he's saying is we're actually coming back to the days when you used to tell stories face to face, and you might have heard somebody harumphing or sighing or getting bored or heckling or whatever. And he's saying that's what's happening now, that when a TV show is on, like The Apprentice, Love Island, X Factor, all of those things, people are I suppose going on Twitter or whatever, and they're narrating and they're watching and they're engaging at the same time as watching the TV. So he talking about pitching to commissioning editors, etc., and he said that really probably one of the biggest things you need to do is to do your homework. He said a great idea is just not enough, and some of his points and top tips were, find out what's in it for them, as in the commissioning editor. What interests them, what specialisms have they already commissioned things in. Check out your rivals, the competitors. What do they know already, so you don't want to insult them. How much time have they really got to speak to you, and leave them wanting more. And he says, if you get all of that together, that's great. So you might only have, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, whatever, but don't fill the whole time up with this long drawn out pitch. Give them some time to have questions, for some discussions, because one of the things that Steve pointed out was like an awful lot of the work is done working out whether someone can work with you. It's not necessarily the idea, and sometimes they might turn off the idea if you are coming across overly arrogant or annoying, or because that's human nature. We just make we make decisions. So some of the other things that Steve said was, if you make some factual claims in your pitch, make sure that you follow it up with the evidence. Keep the conversation going afterwards, and think of ways that you can say, I'll follow that up with you. He then said there was 4 sort of elements that he suggested that you should have ready for each pitch. So number 1 was your title. Number 2 was your top line. So it's about 7 words, Steve Rawling advised. Then the talent, who's going to be in it or who's going to be involved in it. And then your trailer taster, so a bit of information about what that might look like. And I really like the fact that Steve pointed out, I love Facebook. Everybody knows I love Facebook. I'm slightly biased. But he said that when you're putting something on Facebook, you can go up to about 12 words. And the online world seems to like these medium length headlines. But if you go to the likes, I think it was the New York Times he quoted, who have